All right, we'll go ahead and get started. The Iowa Utilities Commission is now in session. I am Chair Sarah Martz. With me today are Commissioners Josh Burns and Eric Helland. It's 9 a.m. on November 19th of 2025, and this is the time set for the Commission's monthly meeting. At the end of this meeting, we have designated time for public comments. Public comments must be made in person and are to be no more than 3 minutes for each individual who chooses to speak. There was a sign-in sheet in the lobby before the meeting in which you could inform the commission if you have public comments. I will call the names in the order of the individuals who have stated they would like to speak, at which time you may come up to the podium and make your comments. If you have not signed in and would like to make a public comment, please see IUC staff in the lobby. I'll go over this all again when we get to the public comment time. We will begin this meeting with a motion to approve previous commission meeting minutes. I move for the approval of prior commission meeting minutes. Are there any objections? Hearing none, the minutes are approved. We will now go to discussion items with Mr. Giddens, who will present it on RTO and federal regional updates. Mr. Giddens.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Eric Giddens, the Federal Regional Coordinator here at the IUC, and I'll provide a brief update of our federal and regional work here at the Commission. The slides coming. Okay, to continue our ongoing effort to educate the public about our federal and regional partners, this slide is a review of our federal partner, the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, or FERC. FERC regulates interstate energy transmission, licenses hydropower projects, approves interstate energy infrastructure projects, and ensures electric grid reliability. And also, this is a quick review of what our regional partners called Regional Transmission Organizations, or RTOs, are. RTOs operate large regional electricity systems, of which almost all of our Iowa electric utilities are members. The RTOs operate the bulk electric transmission system, managing the flow of electricity and maintaining reliability throughout the system. They also perform planning services for future system needs. The RTOs which our Iowa utilities are members of are the Mid-Continent Independent System Operator, or MISO, and the Southwest Power Pool, or SPP. The next two slides show images of MISO and SPP regions and some descriptive statistics of each RTO. And I'll just kind of, maybe I went too far earlier, I apologize. There's the RTO description. There's the MISO footprint, and there's the SPP footprint. And now for a brief update on current federal and regional issues we're working on. The only FERC update I have today is described in a recent action that the Organization of MISO States, or OMS, took. The OMS board met on November 10th and approved comments on two significant federal regulatory matters. The first one is the Department of Energy's advanced notice of proposed rulemaking to FERC on large load interconnections. This proposal seeks to have FERC assert jurisdiction over interconnection of loads 20 megawatts or greater to the bulk transmission system. OMS comments emphasize significant jurisdictional concerns about federal overreach into traditionally state-level load interconnection matters. The comments stress the necessity for robust technical and economic analysis before any new rule is implemented, and also address some concerns about the specific 20 megawatt threshold in this ANOPR. The second action that OMS took was with regards to the North American Electric Reliability Corporation, or NERC, Energy Assurance Standard. This draft standard would require utilities to perform energy reliability assessments, and if specific criteria aren't met, to develop corrective action plans enforceable by NERC. The OMS comments again highlighted jurisdictional concerns and noted that states already undertake substantial efforts related to resource adequacy. OMS also raised concerns over the minimal input from states and utilities during the development of this proposed federal standard. I'll note that both of these sets of comments were unanimously agreed upon by all of the states in the MISO region. And now for a few highlights from our MISO stakeholder meeting held here at the IUC on November 6th. MISO provided an update on winter preparedness. MISO expects sufficient capacity to cover peak forecasts this winter, despite some low coal inventories. However, they pointed out a concerning trend. The winter 2025-2026 surplus of zonal resource credits saw an 81% decrease compared to the prior year. This is attributed mainly to decreased accreditation of resources and recent retirements. MISO also provided us an update on its transmission expansion planning, or MTEP 25 plan. A significant item in this year's plan is Iowa's Big Cedar load expansion project, which is currently the 6th highest cost project in the portfolio. It's estimated to cost $381 million and is being built to serve the significant new load growth in the area. For Iowa, our total MTEP 25 projects totaled $729 million, with the majority of these projects in the other category, which appear to be likely related to load growth. And finally, MISO's Expedited Resource Addition Study, or ARIS process, all 50 non-carve-out spots in the ARIS queue have been filled now, and wanted to note that Iowa currently has 5 projects entered into this process. Now for an update on the Southwest Power Pool, or SPP's Regional State Committee, or RSC. The SPP RSC Committee held its 4th quarterly meeting on November 3rd in Little Rock, Arkansas. There were 2 key agenda items from that meeting that I'd like to point out. The first was a policy change on what are called long-term congestion rights, or LTCRs. The netting of flows with LTCRs. This change aims to increase the amount of awarded long-term congestion rights by adjusting the flow calculation on electrical paths. This proposal passed the RSC, but the discussion highlighted a critical ongoing issue, which is the lack of LTCRs for several entities, including Missouri River Energy Services, or MRES, which operates here in Iowa. MRES is currently paying $3 to $5 million per year in congestion costs due to a lack of LTCRs. An issue rooted in market allocation decisions dating back to 2015. While a long-term court appeal is underway, the RSC created action items to explore tailored solutions for entities like MRES who receive no LTCRs currently. The second topic the SPP RSC voted on that I wanted to point out was to do with cost allocation for SPP's integrated transmission plans. The RSC approved the following 2 items related to cost allocation for their integrated transmission plan. The first was to affirm the so-called highway-byway cost allocation methodology. A proposal to change the allocation structure was rejected. So the highway-byway cost allocation methodology will continue to stay in effect. The second item related to the integrated transmission plans was to do with transmission projects that are driven by state policy, state public policies. This item passed. The new policy allocates costs for transmission projects that are required for individual states to meet public policy goals to those states. I'll note that Iowa opposed this item along with 3 other states in the RSC. The next RSC meeting will be February 2nd in Little Rock, Arkansas at the SPP headquarters. I also wanted to share that we held our winter meeting for Iowa's SPP stakeholders here at the IEC yesterday morning, and that was a great meeting. So this concludes my updates on federal and regional activities here at the IEC. Happy to take any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Giddens. Any questions from commissioners? Mr. Giddens, I just had one on the ANOPR process at FERC. Could you expand more on the timeline for that process?
I'm sorry. We participated in an effort to just support the organization of MISO states and the comments that they drafted, which was, as I noted, it was a unanimous effort amongst all of the states in the MISO region. And those comments were submitted to the DOE, actually, or sorry, to FERC on November 14th. So they've already been submitted, the OMS comments, and this is a long-term process, though. The first step was what's called an ANOPR, or an Advance Notice of Proposed Rulemaking, that the DOE sent to FERC to essentially ask FERC to undergo a rulemaking process. FERC opened up this comment period that OMS and other entities have now already sent comments for. So that's the first step in a much longer process, though. Now FERC will have to actually engage in a rulemaking process. And we haven't hit that point yet. So I guess I'd say there's much more to come, and we don't have any dates yet for what the rulemaking process will look like and how that will unfold at FERC. They haven't announced that yet. We just know about this initial ANOPR, which is kind of the very first thing. That answers your question.
Yes, thank you. All right, Ms. Raby will now present the litigation status report. Ms. Raby?
Thank you, Chair Mark. Good morning, Commission, staff, and members of the public. My name is Michelle Raby. Sorry, I'm pretty loud, but I don't know if I'm that loud. So. My name is Michelle Raby. I'm one of the attorneys here. I primarily handle the litigation for the agency. I'm here with the litigation update of our currently pending cases that are in district court or higher. The first one is Enterprise Products Operating versus the IUC. This was Enterprise challenging the IUC's order, which imposed a civil penalty of $200,000 for each of 7 pipelines and 2 storage facilities that had not been properly permitted since Enterprise acquired them in 2002. The total fine imposed then was $1.8 million. Enterprise had appealed the IUC's decision to Polk County District Court, who upheld the decision in a written ruling. Enterprise then appealed the decision to the Iowa Supreme Court, who transferred the case to the Iowa Court of Appeals. 2 things have happened on this case since last month's meeting. The oral argument was held, and the Court of Appeals issued its ruling on October 29th, affirming the district court's decision that the penalty imposed by the commission was within its discretion. And then, although the update says the petition for further review by Enterprise was due on November 18th, it did not appear that they were going to file it, but they did file a petition for review to the Iowa Supreme Court yesterday afternoon on the last day to do so. Essentially, that's the only path for review after you've lost in the Court of Appeals. So Enterprise is appealing to the Iowa Supreme Court. Petitions for further review are not generally granted by the court, but I believe they grant like 5 to 10% of them. So our response is due within 10 days. And then we wait to see if the Supreme Court is going to accept it or not. If they accept it, they may or may not set argument on it, and they will issue a decision after that. If they don't accept it, they will issue what's called procedendo, which we talked about in another case, where the Supreme Court says the case is essentially over and the fine remains as imposed. The next case is Shelby County et al. Versus IUC. That is what's commonly known to everyone as the Summit case. This case involves a multi-party challenge to the IUC's order of June 25th, 2024, which conditionally granted Summit Carbon's petition to build and operate a 688-mile hazardous liquid pipeline through 29 counties in Iowa. A couple things that have happened on this since our last update is that we had oral argument on October 10th. That was prior to last month's meeting, and the matter on the remand is under advisement. Summit had asked the district court to remand the matter back to the commission for determination on Summit's petition to amend the original petition to make some changes to the route requirement and the diameter of certain segments of the pipeline and some other modifications. Again, IUC took no position on that. That's under advisement. Also filed during this time was the Hearth petitioners had filed a motion to stay the proceedings at the agency level, meaning that the agency could not do anything further on the case while it's pending in district court. That the IUC opposed that. We filed a motion resisting that stay. And both those matters are still currently pending with the district court. There's been no ruling on either the remand or the stay at this point. The next case is Swan Lake versus Iowa Utilities Commission. This case arose from Swan Lake Road Farms appeal of the commission's granting of ITC Midwest petition for an electric franchise of approximately 4.8 miles of transmission line in Johnson County, Iowa. The district court issued its ruling on September 30th, which affirmed the IUC's decision to grant the franchise. But the court also held that because the Iowa statute expanding the scope of a public road easement was not enacted until 2004, and this public easement in this case predated 2004, the ITC's actions constituted a taking for which the landowner was entitled to be compensated for. Both Swan Lake and ITC have now appealed the district court's decision. It was a timely appeal. They've appealed it to the Iowa Supreme Court. The court will now decide whether to keep it in the Supreme Court or transfer it back to down to the Court of Appeals. They'll issue an order designating which one of those things is going to happen, but that order has not been issued at this time. And the last case is Hawkeye Land Company versus Iowa Utilities Commission and MetroNet. That's a Lynn County case. Hawkeye Land Company is challenging the April 17th, 2025 decision of the IUC determining that MetroNet's crossing at a certain intersection in Mitchellville falls within the scope of Iowa Code Section 476.27, and that Hawkeye Land Company is therefore entitled to damages in a capped amount of $750 for MetroNet's railroad crossing at this location. We have filed our answers. Since the last meeting, the commission has prepared and filed the agency record. We filed that in district court on October 23rd. It's about 700 pages. And the next step is for the court to issue an order with a briefing schedule and an argument schedule. That has not happened yet at this time. Normally, the court issues that on its own, but if we don't have that, I'd say within the next week, I'll file a motion asking the court to go ahead and get that set for us. That's it for litigation, unless there's any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Raby. Any questions from commissioners?
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next up, we have Ms. Weisenbach for a legislative overview. Ms. Weisenbach.
Good morning, Chair, Commissioners. My name is Stephanie Weisenbach, and I'm the Legislative Liaison for the Iowa Utilities Commission. I'm going to provide a pre-legislative session update and also introduce a rulemaking order that the Commission recently issued just on Monday of this week. So first, each year, state agencies are allowed to pre-file legislation. IUC pre-filed legislation a year ago, which became House File 304 and Senate Study Bill 1143 in the 2025 session. That legislation did not pass, but we expect it may be considered in 2026 because we are in the middle of a two-year session of the 91st General Assembly. The legislation had two purposes. The first was to limit the IUC jurisdiction on telecommunications rates associated with institutions to strictly incarcerated persons at correctional facilities due to adequate competition being available in the other facilities, and also updating outdated language associated with electric transmission franchises to delete references to a blank form and a seal for signature, which were reflective of more of the kind of paper forms that are outdated now. So this was a modernization proposal, and it still may be considered in 2026. And for the 2026 session, we are also pre-filing legislation again soon, which has a deadline of December 1st. We have two proposals that are subject to bill drafting by the Legislative Services Agency, review and approval by legislative leadership, and also assignment of a sponsor. These three things need to happen before the legislation could be introduced at the Capitol of the session. It would be premature to go into detail today on the proposals, but as we move through the process, more information will be available on the legislature's website and to external stakeholders that are interested in IUC's work. After the request is uploaded, the bill titles associated with IUC will be on the legislature's website on a page titled Bill Requests by Department. And so that is just the IUC's name and the title of each bill. And after the bills are drafted, it goes on another public webpage on the legislature's website titled Pre-filed Bills and Departmental Bill Requests. For anyone that is interested in checking or monitoring on these on the website, both of those web pages can be found on legis.iowa.gov, and by choosing the menu item, find legislation, and then going to bill tracking tools and the bill request logs. So the session begins in 2026 on January 12th. And the first week or two, typically not as eventful, but soon enough, bills will start to be introduced and considered more in committees. The first funnel date in 2026 is Friday, February 20th. And this is when the bills will have to be passed out of committee with certain exceptions to bills associated with appropriations and taxes and other matters that may make it through the funnel regardless if they're out of committee. The funnel dates serve as a bit of a checkpoint to help winnow down the number of bills that the legislature is considering to help them become more manageable and prioritize their work. There is a second funnel date and week for any bills. The next one will be the Friday, March 20th. And the dates and deadlines are a bit more tentative sometimes, as I said, because some unexpected things may happen in the final weeks of session, but the 100th calendar day of the session is scheduled for Tuesday, April 21st, 2026. And whether they exceed that time frame past that per diem allotment is to be determined. And for the second update this morning, the commission issued an order opening a rulemaking docket on Monday, and the docket number for that is RMU 2025-1125. And this is a rulemaking docket to examine whether the Iowa Administrative Code that the IUC manages or works under in chapters 11 and 25 should be amended in light of anticipated 765 kV transmission lines, which are a larger scale of transmission than what is currently operating in Iowa, and may potentially pose certain impacts surrounding the electric field strength, noise, and amount of land needed in order to design and construct those. These transmission lines are in the process of being bid out by MISO, which Mr. Giddens had referenced earlier, and they are part of the region's long-range transmission plan to serve the growing demand and needs for the region in the most effective way. The docket is available in the electronic filing system, and we have a technical conference scheduled for January 12th, 2026 at 2 p.m. And that date, January 12th, is also the deadline for any written comments into EFS by 4:30 that day. Again, that docket number for anyone that wants to look it up is RMU 2025-1125, and I'm happy to take any questions or open it for discussion.
Thank you, Ms. Weisenbach. Any questions or comments from commissioners? Okay, thank you. All right, next up, we have Mr. Davis, and he will be presenting information on the commission's monthly financials. Mr. Davis?
Good morning, Chair Martz, Commissioners Helen and Burns, Phil Davis with the Iowa Utilities Commission Accounting Department. The information presented for you this morning is the financials for the month of October, as well as the year-to-date fiscal 26. With the completion of month 4, our expenses and revenues are consistent with our expectations. I think it's worth noting that the revenue numbers at this time of the year do tend to trend a little bit lighter because up through the middle of the month of September, we're still posting dollars in the hold-up-in period for the prior fiscal year. Having said that, a couple of highlights for this month. On November the 4th, the accounting department issued our 5th and final invoices regarding fiscal 25, and that is the remainder assessment that we discussed at our last public meeting. Those have been sent out, and I'm happy to announce that about 20% of those have already been returned. So we're happy that those are, while not reflected in this statement, those will be in the November statement because those have been received just within the last 2 weeks. So that's good news, and we're happy to see those, getting those booked in real time. I would note that there are about 13 outstanding invoices that are for the periods that precede that, for Q4 or earlier, for the close of fiscal 25. The Accounting and Assessments Department will probably take that information up with leadership with regard to next steps if any of those are delinquent to the extent that they could be referred for the set-off program with the state of Iowa. But at this time, that is a snapshot. And as I noted earlier, I think we're consistent with where we would be at this time of the year typically. And we don't have any concerns, but happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions? No. Thank you, Mr. Davis. All right, item number 4 on the agenda is other business items. So we will start with Ms. Horace, who will be giving an update on the low-income home energy assistance program. Ms. Horace.
Good morning. I'm Keita Horace, Utility Analyst with the Commission, and I'm here to provide an update on the Low-Income Home Energy Assistance Program, or LIHEAP. During the federal government shutdown, Iowa's community action agencies continued accepting applications for the 2025 Low-Income Home Energy Assistance Program. With the shutdown now concluded, community action agencies remained fully operational and are continuing to accept and process applications. Agencies are currently relying on 2025 carryover funds and limited state resources until 2026 federal funds are released. As of November 5th, a total of 30,313 applications have been received statewide. The Iowa Department of Health and Human Services, or HHS, LIHEAP online application portal opened to the public on Friday, November 7th, providing a convenient option for customers to apply, submit household information, and upload required documents without visiting the Community Action Agency's office. And I'll note that most of the community action agencies, HHS, and the IUC all have that link on our websites if folks need it. HHS continues to monitor 2025 carryover funds to support program administration and limited crisis assistance. Iowa HHS is using available state resources to continue processing the applications until federal funding is released. Due to the shutdown, the federal shutdown, payments to regulated utilities may be delayed until at least February. HHS is continuing to monitor the funding process and communicate that with us. Funding for propane and fuel oil assistance remains available through pre-buy agreements and other sources, and community action agencies are actively sending approval notifications to participating vendors. IUC customer service staff is continuing to field customer inquiries and complete disconnection investigations, and will continue to coordinate with HHS to provide updates regarding the 2026 funding. And thank you for your time, and I would take any questions you might have.
Thank you, Ms. Horace. Any questions? No? All right, thank you. Next up on the agenda, Commissioner Burns is going to be giving an update on the NARUC annual meeting that was just held last week in Seattle.
All right, thank you. So figured if we're going to have staff give updates, if commissioners do things, we should probably give updates as well. So we'll start out just little education piece on what is NARUC. So like any professional or any profession, a lot of folks have associations that they're part of and as part of being in that profession. So for us as commissioners, we have the National Association of Regulatory Utility Commissioners, so NARUC. NARUC was founded in 1889, so it's been around for a long time. It has an executive director. Tony Clark is his name. He's a former commissioner from North Dakota, and he's also a former FERC commissioner. So very great, or has a great background for the job that he does. So with NARUC, it is definitely a fine old machine. They have all sorts of different committees. So for a lot of us, our spouses, our kids don't enjoy conversations about utilities at home. My wife gets tired of hearing about things and is not wanting to talk about that stuff. So we need some place where we can kind of nerd out and talk about these things. And so NARUC is really that place where we get to talk to other commissioners. We get to talk about issues that maybe they're seeing in their states, best practices, things of that nature. So some of the committees that NARUC does have, they have committees that deal with critical infrastructure. They have committees with diversity, electric, gas, telecom, water. We have committees on nuclear. We have one that's called Washington Action, in which it's more based on or focused on the political activities that are happening at the federal level. We had, or we still do, but we have an international committee. They used to do a lot of work with international countries. A lot of that funding got cut with this administration, so that's kind of mothballed a little bit. There are pipeline safety committees, so education and training. So there's just a whole variety of things that you can partake in at NARUC. We have task force that get put together for certain different issues, arising issues that may be out there. We pass resolutions through our committee. So a committee may pass a resolution that works its way through the system, gets approved by the board of directors. There's about 36 commissioners that make up the board of directors at NARUC. And then you will have those resolutions will get passed and approved. And then that gives the NARUC staff guidance, if you will, if there are national issues that arise, or if they're working with legislators or policymakers. It's kind of the guideline, if you will, of where we stand as an association. There are opportunities for staff. So we do have staff from IUC that attend from time to time. There are subcommittees on if you're an ALJ. There's subcommittees if you want to focus on law, if you want to focus on accounting and finance. So there's all sorts of different training opportunities for staff as well. So it's just a really good association that covers a lot of different things for us. I would mention that the Consumer Advocate Office has an association that they're part of, and they're part of NASUCA, I think is how you guys pronounce yours. And actually, NASUCA just had their annual meeting as well. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the fact that former consumer advocate Jennifer Easler just got recognized for a Lifetime Achievement Award by her association, which huge honor for her and very deserving of that honor. So we all have our associations and our organizations that we're part of. All of us as commissioners, we're on different committees. We partake in different things. I'm on the gas committee. Commissioner Helen is in electricity, research and education subcommittee, critical infrastructure, water, things of that nature. Chair Martz is on probably the biggest thing is the NARUC FERC task force is probably the biggest lift that she's going to be encountering in the next year with that, and some other subcommittees that you're on as well. And then we can get put on task force. So we just finished up what's called GEAR. And so that is a task force that was created a couple years ago. And the GEAR task force was to study the integration of gas and electric. And we're seeing more of that. And so the GEAR task force just wrapped things up at this last annual meeting. We came out with 9 different recommendations. And those recommendations are things that may deal with storage of natural gas, may deal with markets, infrastructure issues that are constraining the system. And so then we will be using that that recommendation that just got released to have conversations with our gas companies here in Iowa. And we'll talk with our gas utilities about, you know, those 9 recommendations. How does that impact you? Is there anything that we can use those 9 recommendations to provide guidance moving forward? So it's all good information. It's all very usable information. The end product is it's very well vetted. And so we incorporate those things into our day-to-day activities. Some of the things that were kind of the highlights of this last annual meeting that we had a meeting with just commissioners only on safety. And we talked about safety in our different states. We talked about safety when it comes to things like public information meetings, monthly board meetings like we're having here today, safety within our buildings. And we kind of went around and shared information as different states as to what is best practice? What are some things that people are doing? You know, how do you create a safe space for not just your employees and your commissioners, but also for those visiting your building? What are the different steps that you can take? So we had a really good discussion there. We had, obviously, we wrapped up the geared task force, so there was a lot of attention put onto that. The NARUC FERC task force did not happen like it was supposed to because of the federal government shutdown. The FERC commissioners were not able to travel to the meeting because of the fact of the government was not open, and so they did not attend. So that kind of made that difficult to have. I know that the individual commissioners that are on it, I think 6 of them ended up meeting and just having a conversation. A lot of conversations, believe it or not, about something called exponential load growth due to data centers and AI. So that kind of took a lot of the bandwidth of the conversation. Everybody trying to figure out, how do we handle this exponential load growth? How do we provide enough generation to meet that growth and that demand? So that took up a lot of bandwidth and conversations. There's always conversations about infrastructure, supply chain, just, you know, how do you build things if you can't get the materials to construct? So a lot of conversations there. And then there was some attention placed on emergency orders. And so I don't know if some of you that follow the utility world, we have different federal powers that can be enacted to maybe even do things like keep open a coal plant like they did in Michigan, and they can exert those powers. And so it's brought new attention onto those emergency orders or those federal policies that can maybe circumvent some other processes. And so we've had some discussions on that. And then there's always conversations on affordability and just, you know, keeping things affordable, reliability. You know, it covers a lot of different topics. About anything you can think of, there is a panel discussion or some sort of breakout discussion that covers those different issues. So it is a very good conference, a lot of good information that gets disseminated there. And so that's kind of a little bit of a summary on the NARUC annual meeting.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner Burns.
Any questions from staff? Since we ask them questions.
Any questions from staff? All right. Anything to add or anything, Commissioner Helland?
No, I mean, that was a fairly almost exhaustive explanation of NARUC. The one thing I would add is almost every issue that comes in front of a commissioner has been faced by another commissioner or a former commissioner somewhere in the nation at some point. And so the ability to network quickly and find people in a similar role and to communicate with them about what went right and what went wrong and how we can do it differently is a pretty essential tool, particularly when you deal with the nuance and scope of the issues that we're working with. And then whether you like it or not, a commissioner's role is often blurred as it relates to I shouldn't say the jurisdiction so much as where their influence is. And so it's critical that we maintain, you know, that communication and those working relationships across state lines because so many of the issues are governed by by multiple jurisdictions, local jurisdictions, RTOs. And so we find ourselves working almost on a daily basis with other commissioners from other states, providing input one way or the other on major issues. And so the ability to find like minds who have dealt with like issues of this magnitude and complexity is critical. So it's not as obvious as it may be. You may find yourself on the same page as Illinois on water usage, and then Wyoming on data center build out. And so the ability to find those people that quickly really at the end of the day helps us do our jobs better for Iowa ratepayers. So that's about it.
Great, thank you. Yeah, and as Commissioner Burns mentioned, the federal, state, NARUC, FERC collaborative did not meet in Seattle as planned, but will hopefully meet in February at the next NARUC meeting to kind of take that discussion up again surrounding permitting and streamlining permitting between the state and federal spaces. So, all right, we will move to our next item in which Mr. Preston will discuss the state hazmat roundtable that he recently attended. Mr. Preston.
Good morning, Chair Martz, Commissioners Burns and Helen. I'm Larry Preston, engineer with the Electric Safety and Engineering Bureau. Want to provide you with a report this morning on the state hazmat roundtable that I attended at the Homeland Security and Management State Emergency Operations Center, or CEOC. The roundtable is typically held annually in October and brings together a number of state agencies tasked with planning for emergency situations, including the Department of Natural Resources, Health and Human Services, Agricultural and Land Stewardship, Transportation, Economic Development, and Public Safety, along with the 71st Civil Support Team, University of Iowa Hygienics Lab, and an industry representative. Together, these agencies and groups share knowledge related to hazmat planning and training while conducting a tabletop exercise. The October 29th roundtable was an opportunity for each group to share real examples or what experiences and training has been conducted in 2025. Some key points for Homeland Security were that the agency has trained over 11,440 people in the current grant years, 2022 to 2024, completed 11 exercises in 48 counties that participated in. Potential hazmat activities for 2026 have been developed, though federal funding has not yet been determined. Iowa has 23 hazardous material teams that cover 99.5% of the population in 93 counties. My role in attending was to discuss the IUC's role in natural gas pipelines, including that IUC permits, regulates, and inspects natural gas pipelines in Iowa, but only permits hazardous pipelines in Iowa, while regulating and inspecting our functions of the Pipeline and Hazardous Materials Safety Administration, or PHMSA. Hazardous pipelines, as you're aware, carry everything except natural gas. I believe there were 6 key takeaways from the hazmat roundtable. The highway emphasis. More agricultural hazmat incidents are occurring, and mostly during the spring and fall each year, suggesting to local emergency planning committees, or LEPC, to sponsor local agricultural hazmat transportation awareness campaigns. From a railway emphasis, raise awareness on the usefulness of commodity flow studies for safety and funding, and start an awareness campaign of emergency notification signs at rail crossings for hazmat drivers. Radiological emphasis, state emergency awareness that Duane Arnold Nuclear Power Plant is projected to be coming back online in the fall of 2028. Increased inspections for Tier 2 hazardous material fixed facilities. Tier 2 facilities have over 10,000 pounds of inventory. Iowa presently has 4,679 facilities reporting and only about 10% are inspected annually. Leverage the role as state hazmat safety leader to influence the creation of an application for the trucking industry, similar to the Ask Rail app that was created for the railroad industry. And number 6, they rotate industry participation. In the 2025 roundtable, the representative industry was railroad. Union Pacific Railroad participated. In 2026, they would like a highway representative. 2027, fixed facility. 2028, hazardous liquid pipelines. And in 2029, radiological. The IUC Electric and Pipeline Safety and Engineering Bureaus will continue to participate in the exercises, training and safety and security programs at CEOC as they are held, and will update the commissioners on activities. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Mr. Preston. Any questions?
Just one, or I guess couple maybe. You talked a little bit about the fall and the spring, and more, obviously agriculture related. Is that what they were talking about?
Yes.
And was it more along the lines of spills, or, where, especially right now, you see a lot of anhydrous ammonia tanks getting trucked around the countryside? I mean, are we talking that? Are we talking the fact that we have, frost is coming out of the ground, we have more people starting to dig, and we're getting more hits? And I know that it's a good time is putting tile in the spring, or you're putting it in the fall.
At the meeting, they didn't discuss digs hitting pipelines or anything. They discussed concerns with anhydrous, discussed concerns with when you're filling equipment in the field, a fuel spill or a fuel leak, and also spraying for weeds and insects.
So was one call represented there at all, just out of curiosity?
No.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Preston. All right. Is there any additional business that the commissioners would like to discuss today? No. All right. Before we open the meeting up to public comment, I want to remind everyone that due to scheduling conflicts, we will not hold a December monthly commission meeting. We will pick back up in the new year on January 21st of 2026. I also wanted to take a moment to highlight a couple of things that we have going on between now and that next meeting. So first, on December 2nd, there is a hearing on docket HLP-2025-0001. That's here in the hearing room. Next, we will be holding a hearing on docket P-0910 on December 3rd, also here. On December 8th, there will be a scheduling conference for docket E-22534 and another scheduling conference on December 9th for docket P-0877. A hearing for GCU-2025-0004 is scheduled for December 16th through 18th, and that is in Mason City. A hearing for RPU-2025-0003 is scheduled for January 13th through the 15th. The commission office will also be closed for state holidays, November 26th through the 28th, December 24th and 25th, and January 19th. All of these days can be found on the IUC public hearing and meeting calendar. So we are now at the time for public comment. I have the sign-in sheet with the individuals who have indicated they would like to make comments today. When I call your name, please come up to the podium and be sure to speak clearly into the microphone. A reminder that all comments are to be limited to 3 minutes per person, and verbal comments are not filed in any docket. So if you'd like those filed, you can see our customer service office. Commissioners are in listening only mode for public comment. They're not able to respond. And commission staff will be sharing a timer for your viewing in front of you. So I'll pull up the list here. And our first commenter is Kathy Carter.
Good morning, Kathy Carter from Floyd County. You'd think that me being in red and wearing this pin, I'm going to speak about the Summit Pipeline, but I'm going to fool you. I'm not. You mentioned docket GCU 2025-0004. A resident of Cerro Gordo County, Heidi Marquardt, submitted her comments and objection on October 8th, but I doubt that you get to read it all, so I'm going to highlight some of the points that she made because she did an excellent job. She's talking about home rule, basically. She's parts of Iowa code that are critical to this hearing that's coming up. Chapters 331, 335, 352 are about county home rule implementation, county zoning, county land preservation and use. Per the Iowa Constitution and Iowa Code Chapter 331, each of the counties in the state is authorized to determine how to implement various state priorities. Cerro Gordo County achieved harmony among the state priorities through the county's comprehensive plan and adoption of zoning ordinance. State code is met. The county took time to follow Iowa code as they developed the land use recommendation and ordinance. Both the comprehensive plan and zoning ordinance were developed by following another state priority, citizen participation. It took many people in the county a year. The public participation was humbling. Over 340 people attended the 5 public informational meetings, input sessions. 88 individuals spoke, 8% in favor, 88% opposed. The breakdown is similar to what the county heard from the public during development of the comprehensive plan, 13% in favor, 87% opposed to large-scale renewables. The Board of Supervisors unanimously adopted the zoning ordinance. A few months later, along comes Ranger Power. The self-proclaimed community partner decided to ignore the majority voice, disregard local rule, and ask the IUC for a generator permit. The high level of participation continues. As of October 7th, 332 people had submitted letter or letters. 226 object to the Ranger Power project. Of the 226 who object, they shared their unique perspective. Most of those in support seem to be guided, her words. She came to that conclusion by noticing these things about the letters of support. 55 of the 106 submitted form letters. 30 of those 55 signed a form letter early on. Each letter said the exact same thing. The letters were uploaded to the docket by someone different than the person who signed it. The other form letter originates from a link. Person could go to the link, choose the form letter they wanted to submit. The remaining 51 people who submitted letters of support did take some time to write their own. 3 of those were trade associations. 4 of those appear to not have any ties at all with the project. 2 of them are from another state. 42 of those 51 supporters are part of a family that will benefit from the River City Energy Project. There are 10 such families represented in those letters of support. 50% of the acres in phase 1 of that project are owned by people who do not live in Cerro Gordo County. She listed a number of the specific phrases used in these form letters, but I'll skip to this one. River City Energy Project will generate over $23 million in additional tax revenue to help schools, libraries, etc. She researched that. She says, as I learned more about it, I realized that this amount is over the span of 40 years. Assumes maximum generation, does not account for loss of property taxes the county would realize, and does not come anywhere close to replacing the money that would be lost from our economy as a result of taking these acres of our agricultural production. You mentioned the hearing coming up 1 week before Christmas. Your decision will set precedent. She says, I do beg you to please uphold home rule, respect the process Cerro Gordo County has followed to create and adopt rules best for the county, and honor the public engagement that has occurred. Heidi Marquardt from Cerro Gordo County. Thank you.
Thank you. Colleen Tucker.
Poster here.
I'm Colleen Tucker. Thank you again for letting me speak before you. I'm a fifth generation landowner from Mitchell County. So I ask you why? Why have you given a permit to a private company and allowed them to utilize eminent domain? Well, I can only imagine the reason why, but it's clearly not because it is the right thing to do, because we wouldn't be here begging for our constitutional rights. This first picture here on my little board here is my property, an aerial shot from 2016. Look at how beautiful it is. This is what the company wants to cut apart. It's my heritage. This is what the company wants to have permanent access to. It's just not right. The company hasn't cared for and loved this land like my family has for 153 years. I have so many good memories of helping my dad work this ground. I learned how to drive his John Deere tractor, and now I find out that John Deere is one of the investors. How sad, because my dad was loyal to John Deere. Why do the three of you have the power to take our property rights away from us? You don't know me. You don't know my family. So let me give you a little history of my family, thanks to my mother's scrapbooks. This first picture here is a picture of my great-great-grandparents, Thorgrim and Mary Nelson. They came to America from Norway in 1867 and acquired the property in 1872. They had a son named Eric Nelson. Eric and his wife, Inger Nelson, they're my great-grandparents. Eric was born in Norway and came to America with his family when he was 13 years old. They acquired the property in 1899. And they had a daughter named Mary Nelson. This is a picture of my grandparents, Ted and Mary Christensen. They acquired the property in 1926, and they had a daughter named Arlene Christensen. So that's a picture of my parents, Arlene and Delma Rudolph. They were married at Rock Creek Lutheran Church, which is near Osage, Iowa. And they acquired the property in 1964. They had a son and daughter, my brother, Daryl Rudolph, and myself, Colleen, and then my spouse, Ed Tucker. We acquired the property in 2015. And then the future generation here, my three kids, Nick Tucker, Natalie, and her spouse, Brandon Sundell. For 153 years, this land has been in my family. That alone should be enough. I do not owe the company or the government any justification why I want a pipeline running through my property. My no thank you should be respected by all. With a heavy heart, please revoke the company's permit and ask them to come back when they have a viable plan and a proven scientific plan. Not this wishy-washy, let's see how it goes plan. Maybe we'll go north, maybe we'll go west. That's not a plan. Please stop the madness. Thanks for listening.
Thank you. Jessica Mazur.
Hello again. My name is Jess Mazur, lifelong Iowa resident, live here in Des Moines. And I'm sorry because I'm going to repeat myself a little bit from last month, but unfortunately, we're still in the exact same circumstances last month. We're still just waiting. We're waiting for a district court judge to make a decision. We're waiting for the multiple motions that are in front of you all. We're getting really good at waiting because for the last 5 years, we've been doing a lot of it. For the past year, Summit has had the opportunity to go talk to Phase 2 landowners and try to convince them to sign easements. For over a year, they've had time to do that, and they have just barely above 12%. Isn't that a sign that this is not a viable project? Don't we respect the people of Iowa more than a company that's coming in to take our land, bring unsafe things in, destroy farmland, abuse tax credits, you name it? Isn't that enough? Was that enough Iowans saying we don't want this to say, we're not going to waste our time on this? How long do we have to go through this? We just keep waiting and waiting. These Phase 2 landowners, we're waiting while we just give Summit limitless time to harass people. It's not what this process should look like. And now when we're looking at these new easements that Summit's offering the Phase 2 landowners, there's some differences in them. In the phase one easements, there was a clause in there that was, usually 3 to 5 years. If we haven't acted upon this easement or this agreement, haven't started construction, it reverts back. That was kind of what was normally what we were seeing in the phase one easements. Phase two, we're now seeing like 5 to 7 or 7 to 10 year clauses. How much more waiting do we have to do? They're buying themselves more time because they know their project's not even possibly viable. People are being asked to sign easements that say like, if this process takes 7 to 10 more years, that's kind of what we're expecting. We are sick of waiting. How long do we have to put our lives on hold for Summit? We don't want a consolidation. We don't want an amendment. The amendment proposal is a joke because it doesn't even have any critical information that you would need to make a reasonable decision. We don't know where they're going. At the open houses that Summit just held over the last couple of weeks, they told lots of people different things. You didn't get the same story at each meeting. Nebraska, Wyoming, Colorado, North Dakota is still on the table, Oklahoma, Texas. We can't be making decisions upon that. That's a joke. This is a commission that should be looking at viable projects with applications that are complete and thorough, and that's not at all what Summit's done. Last couple things are ISAC is submitting an amicus brief to the U.S. Supreme Court in support of our zoning case right now, trying to protect local control and zoning. Over 50 Iowa counties have signed on in support. Another sign that this is enough. We're sick of waiting. We're done with this. Move on. And then lastly, I heard the legislative person talk about these bills that are going to be pre-filed, and I am an external party that would be interested in seeing those if we could get copies of those as well. But bottom line, let's just be done. We're sick of waiting. Move on. Let's get something in Iowa that actually helps people.
Thank you. Weston Grow.
I'm Weston Grow. I live in Guthrie County. Pretty much a lot of the things I was going to say was about what Jess was saying. This is just going on way too long. The amendments I can't understand why you'd even consider them because it changes the destination. Something you explicitly put in the first permit was you had to have permits from the other states, and now they want to take that out. The consolidation, I don't quite understand how that would affect all the phase two peoples. That mean it's just automatically thrown into the first phase and approved so that you don't even listen to anybody in the phase two? I don't understand how that thing can even work. So I want you to deny the permit or the amendments and the consolidation. Thank you.
Thank you. Darlene Partlow.
Good morning. I'm Darlene Partlow from Guthrie County, a targeted landowner, but today I'm going to read a message from Pat Meningay, who is from Butler County. Pat and her husband are targeted landowners there. And on Wednesday, November the 12th, she attended an open house at Waverly held by Summit, where they're trying to convince us that their project is so great and they are so good. There was 25 more or less landowners in attendance, and she spoke with Joe Griffin, who is the new CEO. And he has 40 years of experience building natural gas pipelines, but absolutely zero with the carbon 2 pipelines. Mr. Griffin stated that he had spoke directly with Governor Reynolds to encourage economic development in Iowa by building this pipeline. As you may remember, our governor vetoed a bill in June of 25 that had passed the House and Senate by a major majority. And it was to protect our property rights. The bipartisan legislature had finally agreed to do something. And as landowners, we have been lobbying at the State House for 4 years. That veto by the governor was devastating and caused outrage by lawmakers and landowners. The pipeline is proposed to cross 19 miles in Butler County and 30 miles in Bremer. With only 30% of easements signed, we need to stop the fear of eminent domain being used against these landowners. This project is not wanted in our counties nor in our state. Respect our rights and our decisions to preserve our land. Summit is trying to change the rules by manipulating the process and bypassing accountability. The original mapped route through South Dakota has been denied. Their permit has been denied twice due to the banning of eminent domain. Now they're trying to find a new route around South Dakota. I ask you to listen to the landowners and do not let Summit Carbon Solutions take our land. It is not a utility nor a common carrier, and we will never sign an easement. Thank you for your time. And I agree with her. We will never sign an easement. Thank you.
Thank you. That is the end of the list I have for public comment. Is there anything else to come before the commission at this time? All right. Thank you for coming to our monthly commission meeting. As I said earlier, our next meeting will be held at 9 a.m. Wednesday, January 21st of 2026. Information on that meeting, the agenda, and the virtual link will be available on the commission's website and on our hearing and meeting calendar. This meeting is adjourned.